Hi all, it's Rambler here with a video or audio video commenting or rambling about my thoughts on the E3 conference so far. Not that I know absolutely everything that went on, I've just picked up the bits I was most interested in, so don't believe that this is a fully detailed analysis of what's going on at the conference. I've just picked up a few bits that I'm thinking yay or nay or and just throwing in my 2 cents. Yeah, I'll have to apologise for the sound of rain in the background. I've got my windows open because here in the UK, especially in the middle part of the country, it's still very, very warm and humid. So I need the windows open because I don't have very good ventilation in my house. But it's also pouring down with rain, so I apologise for that. But at the same time, that will help keep this video short because I know there's only so much that people can put up with the sound of rain. Although I quite like the sound of rain, it's very therapeutic, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so please forgive me on that one. But the things I want to talk about in this is basically the few things that Microsoft have put up and the very few things, actually, tell a lie, I'll rephrase that, a few things of the many things that Sony have put out for their conference as well. I'm only really focusing on Microsoft and Sony. I'm not focusing on any studios like Ubisoft or Bethesda. I don't care right now. I'm more interested in hardware developments and games that are coming out for either of those consoles. And to be fair, when it comes to Microsoft, in terms of the games that are coming out for it, potentially, I'm not that interested in any of them. Not that they're bad, it just doesn't really appeal to me, that's all. There was like talk of Gears of War 4, some Minecraft stuff, a couple of bits and bobs game-wise. I'm sure for Forza Horizon 3, which did look good. I liked Forza Horizon on the Xbox 360, the first one. I actually really enjoyed that. So that looked pretty cool. But aside from that, all the games that were coming out for the Xbox, I'm not that interested in. But again, I'm not saying it's because I think they're bad or awful. They're just not my cup of tea. But if they are for you, then check them out, and I'll leave it up to you to see what you think. But the thing I was interested about from Microsoft was the fact that they're going to release a slimmed-down version of the Xbox One console called the Xbox One S. And essentially, it's just going to be a smaller version of the console. It's coming out in August, I believe, I think in America. I'm not sure if it's a worldwide release, but in America it's coming out in August at a price of $300 or around £213, which is pretty reasonable actually for an Xbox One, especially the slimmed down version. Although in the UK I'm sure it'll be more like £250, £260, probably even the £300 mark, because we're an island and we get screwed over. But whatever's. Point being is yeah, I think it's a good idea that Microsoft have come out with it, although I have to be honest, I quite like the design, the current design, the original design of the Xbox One. I like the fact that they went for this big, beastie, 70s looking, retrospective, VCR looking console. I thought it was awesome. And I've watched Ben Heck's Element 14's teardown video of the Xbox One because I'm really sad. But I like knowing what goes on inside consoles, especially nowadays where everything's being so streamlined. It's like, well, what else is in there apart from a fan and, you know, a couple of chips, and that's it. But the Xbox One has a really cool steampunk-like cooling system, which I won't go into detail because I'm sure it bores most of you to death. But basically, it looks like something out of steampunk. It's quite a cool cooling system. It's nothing revolutionary or different in the electronics industry. It's quite a standard looking thing for a PC perhaps, but it's really cool. And I quite liked the fact that they really put a lot of thought and effort into making sure the Xbox One ran as smoothly as possible without overheating because of the whole red ring of death of the 360 issue. And I liked it. I thought, as a big beastie console, I thought, yeah, I don't care if it takes up space in my house. I don't care if it takes up space on my desk. I've got a big beastie games console. That is awesome, because big and beastie is cool. I hate small. I hate sleek designs. They're just lame. It's like you put all this money... For like smartphones, for example, you put all your money into a smartphone. You're like, hey, this smartphone cost me £700, and look how small and sleek and slim. I mean, okay, when I say small, I mean it's still relatively big in terms of... For a smartphone, and even slimline electronics are still big in terms of surface area, but they're designed to look sleek and out of the way. And you're like, I don't care. I want it to be big, beastie, and show off, so I can show people, hey, look what I got. I've got this big, beastie piece of electronics. Let's play with it, you know. But then again, I'm very old school, you know. That's just my own perspective on things. But I like the Xbox One because of that. I haven't got one, though, because I wasn't really interested in the games coming out for it, apart from Dead Rising 3. Well, I thought that looked pretty cool, and it was. And a couple of other titles. I was looking forward to Halo 5, even though I've proclaimed to not be a Halo fan. I was looking forward to Halo 5, but it was a bit of a disappointment, apparently, so meh. But overall, in terms of the Xbox One, I haven't bought one because I'm just not really attracted to it, other than the fact that as a console, it looks amazing. It's beastie and it's awesome. On a physical level. But anyway, they're coming out with this Xbox S, which I know a lot of people have asked for, and I believe that, as some people have said in the gaming review world, gaming journalism world, that, oh, it's a bad idea, you know, because it's too early in the Xbox One's console life. No one's going to buy it. It's a lot of money to ask for a new console. Personally, I think it's fine because not many people have an Xbox One compared to a PS4. Although the numbers are growing. I think it's between 20 and 30 million for Xbox One. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's around that number. Microsoft have been very cagey with announcing figures for the actual sales of the Xbox One console. But yeah, it's about 20 to 30 million. I think it's a good... if they market it at the right price, so in America $300, that's pretty reasonable. And if in the UK they market it for about £250 tops... maybe 260, 70 at a push, but if it goes up for £300, then it's not going to work very well in the UK. But if they market it so it's cheaper than the PS4 and it looks cooler, and they've come up with this like white design, which I think is really neat, at least then you won't get any fingerprints on it that are noticeable, and it doesn't attract so much dust as well, which is good. Yeah, I'm quite interested in picking one up. I quite like the look of it, and I think it's cool. So as much as I do like the big beastie thing, I like this white sleek design. It's neat. So fair play to Microsoft for doing it. It was expected, and I think for a lot of people who wanted to adopt an Xbox One but are waiting for it to come down in price or didn't like the fact that it was big, I think it's a goer. I think people are going to be like, oh, all right then. But of course, a console is only as good as the games that comes out on it. And what they were showing up front to support it for new games, for me personally, it's not my cup of tea. But I think a lot of people out there who game nowadays will probably be satisfied, you know. The average gamer, so to speak, will be satisfied. So hopefully Microsoft can recover some ground, and with this Xbox One S, that's going to do it. But it's got to be priced right, especially in the UK and Europe. If they don't, then, well, that's their own fault. They also talked about there's an augmented reality headset they're coming out with called HoloLens. I don't know if it's virtual reality. The words that they're using is augmented reality, so... but apparently there wasn't any show of it really at the conference. It was just a bit of talk and a couple of things here and there. What they did talk about, though, is an upgraded Xbox One console called the Project Scorpio, which is essentially going to be a beefed up Xbox One, similar in vein to the PlayStation Neo that's been talked about and announced by Sony as an upgraded, hardware-wise, PS4. It looks like Microsoft are doing the same with the Xbox One, supposedly to support its HoloLens better and perhaps maybe add VR capabilities, but either way, it's rumoured to be able to support 4K DVD, whatever the hell that means. I guess DVD that outputs at 4K. Okay, why can't it be Blu-ray? I don't know. I'm not really technologically in the know about those sorts of things, but either way I'd have thought, well, surely it'd be 4K Blu-ray, but I suppose 4K DVD is at least a bit more accessible, because I know that DVD still sells well compared to Blu-ray, so I guess they might be alright with that. I don't know. Don't understand it. I'm not going to comment on it any more than that. And it's got more horsepower in terms of GPU and CPU and all that MacGuffin. And it's rumoured possibly to do 4K gaming, but highly unlikely, because 4K gaming, even for really top-of-the-range gaming PCs that cost thousands of dollars and thousands of pounds to build, still find it hard to do, because it's a lot of power involved, a lot of computing processing, and not only that, it requires a lot of cooling, because it produces a lot of heat. I highly doubt Project Scorpio will be able to do 4K gaming at a stable and consistent rate. It might be able to do 4K gaming in bits, but we'll see. We don't know. Maybe it will. Who knows? I've heard rumours that apparently they might market the console, or some people are predicting or rumouring that the console for Project Scorpio is going to be like up to $1,000. I hope not. I think that's a really stupid idea. It'd be a great collector's piece, though, for gaming people in the future. But you might as well just get a gaming PC at that rate. You can get a much better gaming PC for that money if you build it yourself or get someone to help you build it. I'd just do that. So if they're going to do that market range, then I don't think it's going to work. On the same time, though, my favourite games console of all time is the Neo Geo AES, which at 1990 marketed it as an elite gaming console that was arcade perfect at $650 back in the day, which nowadays is about $1,200, $1,300 or 1,300 quid. So it's happened in the past. Once. With mild success, but yeah, it wasn't successful compared to, say, the Mega Drive or the Super Nintendo, that being the Neo Geo. And the games themselves were like 300 quid a piece as well, which didn't help either, which probably might have been what was the killer for the Neo Geo. But my point being is that an elite gaming console has been done before in the past to very, very, very moderate success. It wasn't a failure, but it wasn't the success that they were hoping for. So if Microsoft go down with this Project Scorpio route and it costs like up to $1,000 or even around that mark, it would have to boast. It would be a tough sell, is what I'm going to say. I know some people are arguing that, oh, well, the HTC Vive, the headset from HTC, the virtual reality headset, is like $1,000, and the Oculus Rift is like $700-800 or $600 or whatever, and you still need a powerful gaming PC that's like $1,000 upwards to play with those and all that. And yeah, you're right. So if you're thinking gaming tech-wise and you want the very best, it's still possibly an attractive package, but it would only be an attractive package to hardcore gamers who still are a bit unsure about PC gaming. But there you go. But that's my thoughts on the whole matter. We'll see more about Project Scorpio as it develops. But personally, I'll talk more about this towards the end of this video. I'm not too pleased with what Microsoft are doing by upgrading the Xbox One this way. And that leads me on nicely, actually, to Sony's conference as well, and they're talking about the PlayStation Neo. But before we talk about the Neo, we'll talk about what they had to offer. Now, their conference was much shorter than Microsoft's, but it was basically just, here's a game, here's a game, here's another game, here's a game, here's a game, here's another game. Oh, here's the VR headset. It's going to be out in sometime in October. It's going to cost you about $400, which over here in the UK would probably be about 350 quid or something like that. But it'll work with any PS4. And then we've got all these VR games coming out, including Resident Evil 7, apparently, which has a VR mode in it that goes from start to finish. That's pretty awesome. Don't know if it's going to be as awesome as they claim it to be, but hey, it's still a potentially awesome thing. And the fact that Resident Evil 7 is coming out at all, and it looks a bit more like they're going back to the old survival horror route a little bit, would be awesome. And then they've got a Star Wars VR game coming out for it, where you're in the X-Wing thing and you're in space shooting stuff. That's going to be cool for VR. I don't know if it'll last for very long in terms of gaming appeal, but it's going to be a quick sell, quick niche market, or not a niche market, but a quick sale market, which come Christmas time people are going to love it. Especially with Star Wars being hot up in people's minds at the moment, because Rogue One's coming out soon and all that MacGuffin, and then they're going to release the next movies and stuff. It's a good cash-in. I'm just hoping that as a VR experience, it's a good cash-in, not just a cheap sort of like, yeah, it's cash-in and it's crap, like all cash-ins generally are when it comes to video gaming. So I'm hoping that it is generally a really good experience. And from what the trailers were showing, it looked pretty decent. So we'll see. But either way, they had all that coming out, so a load of other VR games coming out for it. Some people have said that the VR offering from Sony is worse than the HTC Vive headset and the Oculus Rift headset. Personally, I think it's actually pretty damn good, and I think to the masses, it's brilliant, because it's still an expensive piece of kit, you know, $400 or 350 quid in the UK. We don't know what the UK price is going to be. I'm just guessing on that. It's still a lot of money for people to shell out for a piece of gaming technology. It's not a new console, remember. It's just an add-on. It's still a lot of money, but for the masses, it might just get the right adoption period. But personally, I think VR is just going to go down the toilet. It's going to be like Kinect, in that it's a cool experience. I think it's cooler than Kinect, and I think people have said it's cooler than Kinect. I've never personally done it, apart from when I went to Alton Towers recently, and I went on this ride that used to be Air. They changed it to this galactic roller coaster thing, and they have a Galaxy, I forget what it's called now. It's like Samsung's Gear VR headsets with the Galaxy S smartphone provided by Oculus. You had like a headset put on with you on the roller coaster, and it basically simulates a VR simulation where you're going through space and volcanoes and stuff like that. And I really hated it. It was horrible. I really wanted to take the VR headset off me, and I focused it and everything. You know, I got the full sharp image and everything, and it was on my head okay, and the straps were on and all that. But it was a right faff to begin with. You had to queue up for ages for the ride. And the ride's over in like 30-40 seconds. And the VR just was really detracting, because I knew it wasn't real. And that was the thing about VR. It's not real. And I think if you go into that with that mindscape thinking, well, I'm putting it on, I'm going to play it, but it's not real, then you kind of detract yourself away from the experience. Now, most people tend to go into VR thinking, oh, I'll give it a chance. Let's be open-minded and let's try and get immersed into it. And I think that's probably the best attitude to go with it. I'm just not a big fan of VR, and that ride really pissed me off. I actually managed to get the headset off, or at least partially off, so I could just enjoy the roller coaster for what it was. Yes, you could argue it's a roller coaster and not an actual VR gaming experience. I get that, but it just showed me that it's just overhyped rubbish and people are going to get sick of it. And I think they are. And the fact of the matter is, you've got a headset strapped to your damn head, for flaming Pete's sake. Instead of God, by the way. You just look like a bloody idiot, you know, and okay, it's a lot better than what it was in the 80s, and certainly a lot better than the Virtual Boy when Nintendo came out. But it needs more refining. It needs more technological refinement to be like a pair of sunglasses or something like that, which I know can happen. And yes, you have to go through all these technical commercial pieces, and at least it shows that the VR is advancing. You've got to give it a chance. I know, and I am. But be that as it may, you just look stupid doing it, and I just think it's... I don't know. Personally, I'd like to give it a shot. I'd like to have a go with the Vive, so I won't say any more because I haven't really had a full experience with it, but I'm not interested in it. I'm not completely poo-pooing it, saying it's rubbish, although I have said it is, but really, truthfully, it doesn't appeal to me, and I do believe that it's going to get boring. It's going to be another fad. A cool one, though, again, in the gaming collector scene. I think it's cool that they're trying new technology, and I'm hoping that the VR for the PlayStation VR is what it's going to be and designed to be what it is, and it's good for what it is. That's my phone with my mum asking me for a lift. I'll be with her in a sec. Just forgive the ringtone going on. Yeah, I think Sony, though, going back to points, Sony's VR headset opportunities and games, I think, is the best. It's not going to give you the perfect VR experience. It's not as powerful as the Oculus Rift or the HTC Vive, and the HTC Vive has like room sensors you can put in your room where you can move around the room and it tracks your movement, which is pretty cool, I must say. I don't think the PlayStation VR has anything like that, nor do I think the quality of the games are going to be as good in terms of the graphics and the refresh rate and all that, but be that as it may, if it's comfortable to wear, it's the least biggest, it certainly looks easier to wear. It's still a bloody headset, but it looks easier to wear. If it's comfortable to wear and it provides a good enough VR experience for the money, I think it's going to sell very well, and I think the games that they're bringing out for it with the VR capabilities, if they don't screw it up, which really, truthfully, they probably will, but if they don't screw it up and it's as good as people hoping it's going to be and all that, especially Resident Evil 7 and Star Wars and all that, Sony have got a good money maker on their hands there, and even I would be interested in getting one to see. So we'll see. But yeah, in terms of Sony's VR announcement and VR games available, I think it's got a really good offering, personally, and I think if you're still on the bench about VR, I think you should check out Sony's VR offering when it comes out in October. Let's just keep our fingers crossed and touch wood that it's as good as they're making it out to be in the conference. Of course, these things never usually go that way. There's always delays or compromises and lies and stuff, but we'll see. But yeah, the VR headset I think looks pretty cool. I think Sony's VR headset looks the coolest as well, to be honest with you. And the games I personally think look the best. But I do agree with criticism that the games are not necessarily going to be VR friendly to first time VR players. I think Vive and Oculus Rift have done the right thing by bringing out some small, gentle games to get people used to VR before they bring out the bigger guns later. I think the strategy behind Oculus Rift and HTC Vive is probably the more professional and better, whereas VR just going heads in saying, yeah, we're going to have all these VR games. I can admit that, yeah, some people who are new to VR, including myself as well, are probably going to be might be a bit too much for them. I get that comment, and I think that that's possible, so it's something worth bearing in mind. The other thing to bear about with Sony was that they've talked about The Last Guardian at last, and they're apparently giving it a release date, although they've done that in the past, so I'm not too excited about it. It's nice that they're still trying to keep the game going, and if they release it, it could still be like a Doom 4 malarkey, where Doom 4 or Doom or whatever you want to call it actually was really good. I think Doom is personally one of the best video games to come out in this new generation, and personally as a single player experience, fantastic. And I think it's a really good game with a good narrative, but at the same time you don't have to follow that narrative. You can just be Doom guy and kick ass and stuff. Doom for me so far has been the game that's impressed me the most this year in this console generation. It really has. There have been some other good games as well, don't get me wrong, but Doom is the one that stands out the most at the moment. It really does stand out as being something unique and different that for a long protracted development history it paid off. So I'm hoping that The Last Guardian has something similar. And I will pick it up because I played Shadow of the Colossus. I like Shadow of the Colossus. I thought Shadow of the Colossus was really good because it's from the same developers as Shadow of the Colossus. And I've played a bit of Ico. I haven't finished Ico yet. I do need to go back and finish Ico. And I've got the remastered version on the PS3 along with Shadow of the Colossus. So I do need to finish Ico. And I was enjoying Ico for what it was. So I like both those games. I don't think they're as great as people make them out to be, but they're certainly unique and different and well worthy of a play. You know, you should play it at least once in your life or at least give it a go. They're good that way. But yes, Last Guardian, looking forward to it. So hopefully it's at least a good game, despite its long development history. I'm not expecting it to be awesome or amazing, but I'm hoping it's good. That's all I'm saying. And then I'll finish up with the talk on the PlayStation Neo, which again ties in with the Project Scorpio from Xbox or Microsoft. An upgraded PS4, blah, blah, blah. They're saying it's capable of 4K gaming. Personally, again, I think it'll be capable of 4K gaming in small doses, like games will have moments in their campaign or multiplayer sections where there'll be a 4K gaming moment and then it'll go back to being 1080p and all that. Because again, 4K gaming is still very expensive and very intense in terms of computing power. The only downside I have to... Well, there's a couple of downsides to all this talk about the Neo and the Xbox One Scorpio and all that, is that this has been done before in the past with Sega, with the Sega Mega Drive, the Sega 32X, where it was a hardware expansion to improve the capabilities of the Mega Drive and provide 3D gaming at a cheaper level compared to the PlayStation and the Saturn and all that. It didn't work. Although, having said that, it didn't work because the games on it were pretty rushed and poorly implemented. I think if the 32X was given enough time, it might have been a good idea, it might have done better. All I'm saying is it hasn't worked in the past, these hardware upgrades. And I personally am of the belief that a games console is better than a PC in that it's not as powerful, nope, but it's one piece of hardware with one specification for 5 to 10 years. And as a consumer who likes gaming and wants the top of the range gaming technology but has no knowledge of PCs and how they work, and have no knowledge on how to build PCs, and don't even have the money to get a super top of the range gaming PC, or the skills or the people to help them build it, a console has that advantage and will always have that advantage of being one piece of hardware for 5 to 10 years, and you get to watch that console's potential come to life as the games progress, as developers get used to the hardware. The games in the later life of the console are gems, usually, in terms of their graphical capabilities and their gameplay. That's the joy of consoles. You buy it first hand. You play the first brand new games that come out with launch titles and what have you. You see what the console's possibly capable of. You see what's going to be the next thing. You're either impressed or you're not. And then you let the games come out. There's a period where the games are mediocre, some good, some bad, nothing special. And then after a year or two, maybe 3 years now, because gaming technology is still getting sophisticated and developers are having to spend more time developing these games and money, you start getting these really neat titles that properly show off the console's capabilities. And as an investment and value for money from a consumer's perspective, it's absolutely perfect. They're starting to take that away now with these upgrades. They're sort of trying to take the smartphone route, where you buy a new smartphone or you upgrade your smartphone every year or 2 years. I don't with my smartphones. The latest smartphone I've got is a Galaxy S5. I've had it now for 2 years. I plan to have it for 2 more. And when I get a new phone, I'm planning to get another S5 anyway, because it's perfect for what it is. I'm not spending or getting new contracts where I'm paying £50 a month or more, or 700-800 quid a year or 2 years to get the latest phone which has incremental upgrades. It's just pointless. It's rubbish and throwing money away. And I don't know enough about gaming PCs to build a gaming PC. And even with a gaming PC, if you do decide to invest all the money in building a gaming PC that has these capabilities, it doesn't last for 1 or 2 years. You usually build it to last at least 4 or 5, maybe longer. And you've still got the opportunity with the gaming PC to add modules. You can take bits out, put new bits in. You can upgrade it slowly over time, where you want, how you want, and at how much money you want as well. You can choose that. So a gaming PC is still amazing and customizable, but at least if you go and invest money in it, you've got complete control over how much you're willing to spend on it, if you want to do that. With a phone, you don't. And with consoles, you just get a piece of hardware for 5 or 10 years, and that's that. And I think that's how it should. Consoles will always have relevance in gaming. They will always have that relevance because of that. But if Sony and Microsoft are doing these upgrade things, I know Nintendo did it with the new 3DS. I don't know how well the new 3DS is selling. I think it's sold okay. But in terms of games that specifically use the technology for the new 3DS without alienating the old 3DS owners, there haven't been that many. And most of the games that come out for 3DS now and the new 3DS are compatible with both types of 3DS. Because otherwise you're alienating your market. You're segregating, you're separating your market out. That is going to offend a lot of people who have the original hardware. And Sony and Microsoft run that same risk with the PS4 and the Xbox One, and I think that's a really bad idea. And Nintendo, I don't know many games that just take full use of the new 3DS features. And developers are getting annoyed as well, because it now means they have to develop console games that do basically what PC games do, which is where they have to develop games with, okay, if you're running it on a basic PS4 or basic Xbox One, this is what you get, but if you're running it on an upgraded Xbox One or PS4, then you can get these options. They're basically having to develop console games the same way as they're developing PC games, which is a ball ache for developers, unless they are absolute PC gaming makers, that's all they ever do. And even then, I still think it's hard for them. It's a ball ache, and I think developers are going to hate it. And I personally think if consumers are not going to buck this trend and go with this upgrading malarkey, I think developers are not going to like it either. They're the ones who will put the brakes on the whole thing. So, personally, I think the Neo and the Scorpio are just upgrades to the consoles that we currently got to handle the VR headsets. Because VR gaming at the moment is very intense on the old computing power. And the PS4 and the Xbox One just certainly can't do it to the same levels as the Vive and the Oculus Rift. So I personally see these upgrades as just being able to tie in with VR, and they're having to do that because if VR is a success and it takes off, they would kick themselves in the foot, or shoot themselves in the foot even, if they hadn't done this upgrade feature. So in the way, they kind of know it's untrodden waters, it's new to them, it's new to consumers. I'm not going to go on too hard on them anymore. We'll see how it goes. But personally, as a gamer, I'm not interested. I'd rather stick with the old console model. Thank you very much. And I think for the next console generation, they need to come out with a console that's really powerful and can do VR to a good level. Not necessarily the level of the Vive or the Oculus Rift, but do it that way. And at least have this generation experimenting with VR, which they are. And you could argue they are with the Scorpio and the Neo, but this can't become gaming console markets for the future. There can't be these upgrades now. There has to be new console generations, otherwise it just gets boring. It's just going to get lost and consoles will die. Money will be lost, gaming will go down the toilet, and yeah, it's just no. I don't know. But anyway, we'll see. But other than that, both conferences were interesting. I think out of the two, those Sony's was the better one. And we'll see where it goes from there. But anyway, what are your thoughts and feelings on E3 so far? What do you think about VR? What do you think about these upgrades? Do you think these upgrades to these consoles, Scorpio and Neo, is a good idea? Do you think I'm wrong? Please tell me and let me know. Tell me what advantages that these can bring and how this could be beneficial to the gaming public and the gaming world and the market and what have you. Let me know, because there might be something I've missed. I'm a very single-minded person. I'm an old generation gamer. I'm not in touch with younger generation gamers. Maybe they can see something that makes sense in this that can convince me to go, oh, okay, I see what your point. All right, fair enough then. All right, I'll give it a shot. Let me know. Or just tell me I'm wrong. I don't mind. It's up to you. Whatever you fancy. But can I say thank you very much for listening if you have done. Take it easy. Have a good one. Hope you're well. And I will see you in another video in the future. Bye for now.